or if let's say you are talented or your designs are good enough, then everything else should, fall into place. But many of us already know that that is entirely not true, right? I mean, you can be very skilled, very hardworking, and still struggle financially, professionally, and even, mentally, or let's say emotionally in this field, right? And that disconnect is what the session is really about, right? So tonight I want us to, um, rethink what it really means to be an architect, right? Not just as a designer, right? But as a value creator. Now, when I say value creator, I want you to actually just, pause for a moment and really think about that phrase. Because if you look at it, most of us, myself inclusive, right? We tend to introduce ourselves by the title, oh, architect, student architect, intern, designer, architectural designer, whatever it is, right? But very few of us actually introduce ourselves by impact, right? And that difference matters more than we realize, right? So I believe this conversation is especially important if, you know, like myself, still early in our career like this, because at this stage, habits are being formed, you know, how you see yourself, how you speak to clients, how you assess jobs, works, whatever it is, how you negotiate and even how you tolerate disrespect within the same industry, right? And these early patterns they often actually follow us for years if you are not careful. So I actually want us to listen, attentively, not just casually, because it is something that can reshape, our entire career. So in this session, right, we'll look at the realities actors face in today's market. Why skill alone does not often translate into fair pay or let's say professional respect, right? We'll look at the differences between skill and value, right? Then also challenge the myth or the thinking that you just being good at design is enough, right? We also look at what exactly clients pay for, right? And also look at undercharging, charging, everything related to that, right? And also, the long-term impact of you undercharging, like being cheap, right? And then also look at different value principles as it applies to both you working, say, as a freelancer or um, as an employee that works 9 to 5, right? Then we also cover, pricing and negotiation as mindset, because it actually is a mindset, right? So before we go deep into that, let me just start with a simple observation here, which most of us already know, right? As architects, we work, long hours. We are trained professionals, obviously. We solve complex problems, right? And that affects people's life, safety, finances, and the futures. But yet somehow we are still underpaid. We are still undervalued. And maybe sometimes, or most times, in fact, disrespected in the process, right? And this is not just a Nigerian problem, right? But the thing is that in Nigeria, it is, more amplified, right? You see, graduates, struggling to get, say, decent placements. You see interns being overworked with, little structure, right? And you see freelancers even listen to the bottom on the fees just to secure a job, right? And not to be exempted, even people working 9 to 5, right? They still get stuck on stagnant salaries for years. Oh, okay, I think I can present now. Thank you. Um, okay, let me just keep through to where I currently am right now. Okay, yes. So the question we should be asking ourselves now is: we all know that we are skilled, right? If you are that skilled or we are this skilled, why are we still, struggling? And to be very honest, right, many of us we know people who have left architecture, right? They've left like entirely. not because or maybe they lack passion, but because the system actually drained them. Some moved into some moved into tech, some into real estate, some into completely unrelated fields. And when you ask them why, funny how the answer is really, oh, I hated architecture. Everyone, they already know, or they knew the reason why they entered architecture. So it's not, oh, I hated architecture. It's usually things like, oh, I couldn't survive. And I mean, I've actually seen this up close because my closest friend, studied architecture with me, went through the same studio stress like every one of us, graduated together, right? We shared same aims for the progression, right? But over time, architecture went down, right? Now, not because he wasn't capable or maybe he wasn't committed, right? But because the structure of the practice, right? It's kept demanding more, right? While offering very little in return. So eventually, he had to make uh, what's it called? He made a very difficult decision to step away and pursue something he had, always been curious about, accounting. Weird, right? But what happened next is almost ironic because he excelled immediately. He sat for his, ICANN exam and passed them in one sitting and eventually became a five-time ICANN prize winner. That is not beans. I kid you not. Because we have people who have background in accounting, who did accounting for 5 years, they go write this ICANN exam, and they fail. They keep, writing the exam every year. But he passed one sitting and not just passed, with prizes to show for it 5 times. And today he works, as an auditor in a major firm in Lagos, earning a salary that actually, far exceeds what architecture typically, offers at an entry level or early career level. So imagine, I'm actually genuinely proud of him. But his story should actually make us feel uncomfortable because it's not an exemption, right? There are people like him who are talented, passionate architects who didn't leave the field because they feel, but because, like I've been saying, the condition of practice pushed them to that age, right? So imagine when a profession consistently drains the people, right, without providing that structure, or should I say dignity, or maybe fair reward, right? It quietly loses some of its best mind to other industries, and that is a loss. We rarely talk about, right? So that tells us something important. The problem is not talent. The problem is not intelligence, right? The problem is structure, positioning and understanding how the profession interface with money, with power, right? And if we don't talk about it honestly, we'll keep, repeating the same cycle. And I believe that is exactly why this conversation matters. And why we all have joined this webinar tonight, right? To help us, begin changing how we position ourselves, how we are perceived, and ultimately how we are valued, right? So I believe one of the biggest mistake, right, we make is assuming that because you are skilled, right, that skill should automatically, translate to value, right? That's what most of us believe. But in school, right, we are taught to focus, on drawings, aesthetics, maybe concepts and presentation. Everything looks so good, right? And we spend years refining our technical abilities, right? And that is important. I'm not against that. It's very important, right? That's the only sense of being an architect. But the real world does not, reward effort the way school does, right? Because if you look at it outside the classroom, people don't pay you because you tried hard or because you work hard. They pay you because you solved a problem for them, right? They pay you because you reduced the risk or maybe save them time, or help them make better decisions, right? And I feel that is where many architects get stuck, right? We are highly skilled, yes, we know, but we don't always understand how our skill creates value for other people, right? And if you cannot explain or position the value you bring, the market will not reward you properly, right? So think about it this way: two architects graduate from the same school with similar grades, similar portfolios. Obviously, it can't be the same, but let's say similar portfolios. And 5 years later, one is struggling and the other is doing very well, right? What changed? Like I said earlier, it wasn't intelligence, right? It was understanding how their skills translated into outcomes people are actually willing to pay for, right? And that brings the same skill is potential, value is application, right? So when I say skill is potential and value is application, what I mean is this: having skill alone, right, does not automatically translate to impact or maybe reward, right? Skill is what you can do, right? Then value is what actually happens when that skill is applied to solve a real problem for someone, right? And until skill is applied in that way that creates outcome for others, it remains just a potential. It is just a potential. So you actually have to maximize that potential you have, apply it to solve real life issues, and then you have your value. Now, until you connect, um, these two variables, that's skill and value, until you connect the two intentionally, your career might just feel like, you are working, with no little reward, right? And another thing, right, that we are being told, I don't want to say maybe it's a lie, but I call it a dangerous lie, right? And many of us grew up believing that, or maybe not necessarily believing, but maybe we were told, we decided to believe or not, but that's up to us. That if you are good at design, everything will sort itself out, right? So we focus on, learning as many software as possible, spicing up our portfolios, adding 3D visuals, renders, doing animations and things like that. Yeah, I'm also like that. But we chase perfections in drawings, while ignoring how our work actually fits into the larger system of decisions, costs, timelines and risks from both you as the architect and also risks from the client, right? And the truth is that being good at design is just a starting point, right? Clients are not looking for beauty alone. They are looking for confidence, right? They want to know that the money is actually safe in your hand. They want assurance that mistake will be minimized, right? That decision will be thought through, right? And the outcome will be predictable, right? And design is just that instrument, right? It's an instrument that will get you somewhere, and value is what the client actually walks away with at the end of the process. So the value can be anything. It can be the peace of mind it gets while working on the project with you. It might be, okay, you've created a smoother, workflow, or maybe you've saved you money, or you've avoided, maybe costly mistakes, right? So if your design doesn't translate into a meaningful outcome for the client, then the value hasn't been fully realized, right? And that is why you see clients sometimes they choose an architect who may not be the most talented. It happens. They have a pool of architects to choose from, but they tend to choose people who are not the most talented, right? But feels more reliable. They tend to choose people that feel more reliable, right? Confidence, clear communication, trust, all these things, they matter, you know, more to the clients than brilliance. Especially in Nigeria, where many clients are more afraid of losing their money, right? Not that they don't care about the perfect design, but cost is a major factor for them. So naturally, they will tend to choose whoever makes them feel the safest and put their mind at peace. And once you understand this, you stop chasing validation, right? And you start building on reliability, how clients will trust you, open communication and all sort of things like that. Then, if you look at it with a microscopic eye, what clients actually pays for, what they really pay for. Because if you think about it, clients do not just wake up, say in the morning, thinking that, oh, I need drawings, I need drawings, I need drawings, I need drawings, or I need designs, I need whatever it is. What they're actually thinking is, I don't want this project to fail. I'm embarking on this project, but I don't want it to fail. Right? They want somebody who will give them that clarity. Someone who understand that, or yeah, okay, let's say someone who understand the process better than they do, right? Someone who can guide them through that uncertainty, right? Because when you start seeing your role through that lens, everything changes, right? You stop seeing yourself as someone who just produces drawings or 3D models, renders, sort of, right? You start to see yourself as someone who enables better outcomes because you are guiding your clients through that uncertainty. You are even anticipating mistakes before they happen, right? And that alone is value, right? That shifts from being, just a producer to being a problem solver is, what really defines value creation, right? And when you look at it in the Nigerian context, right, where clients often invest significant portions of their lives into single projects, right? I mean, many of these clients are actually anxious. Some have borrowed money. I'm telling you, a lot. They borrowed money maybe from banks, from friends, from family, and some of them are actually doing it for the very first time, right? And when you show up calm, you show up informed, you know what you are doing, you are well informed, structured, you immediately relieve a lot of that identity from them. You might not know it, but that's how it is. So, because if you look at it, you are not just designing space. You have to look at it from the mindset of what can I do to actually help my clients, to ease the mind of my clients, right? And that's in a way is also value. So maybe next time you think about maybe let's say pricing your I don't want to use the term pricing. Let's say okay, charging for your work, or maybe you are negotiating, right? Maybe let's say as a freelancer now. Remember that they are just not maybe buying your drawings. They are buying that your abilities to solve their problem, right? In a way, you're also protecting the investments and make them feel, safe in the process. So if you position yourself as someone who does that, I mean, the way you charge, negotiate, okay, maybe communicate will naturally reflect um your your true value. So now we've been saying value. Value is about outcomes, right? It does not equate to effort. It is not measured by okay, how long you've worked. You worked 10 hours. You worked 10 hours today, or you worked on this project for like 1 week straight without sleeping. I mean, it doesn't really matter. They don't care about the late nights you pulled, or maybe how stressed you are while delivering that project. I mean, as architects, we are trained to push through exhaustion, right? We sacrifice our sleep, weekends, and sometimes even our personal life just to make a design work. But to be honest, endurance is not a pricing strategy. Results are. At the end of the day, what? Oh, just at the end of the day, what are the outcome, the results, right? So what clients pay for is the outcome of that your work. What the struggle you went through to get there, right? So if your input prevents a client from making a costly mistake, maybe like buying the wrong materials, or maybe hiring an unreliable contractor, or maybe just designing a layer that doesn't work efficiently, that is value, right? Because if if your expertise help in streamline a process so that deadlines are met, or maybe unnecessary stress is avoided, that is also value, right? Or maybe your decision that you've made, maybe a design decision or administrative decision you've made, saves the client time or money or maybe confusion. That is also value, right? So I'm going to give you like an example. I once helped a small business owner, set up a new office layout in Ibadan, right? She was worried about, workflow, how efficient the staff will operate, right? And also interactions with customers and clients within the space. I mean, I was there for, I think, 2, 3 days, back and forth. I spent a few days, studying our operations, how they work, right? And proposed something small, but I mean, strategic changes like maybe relocating certain workstations, making the pathway well defined for people to move about. These little interventions. I mean, they saved her at least a few weeks of trial and error adjustments without, everyone leaving the office and all sorts of things like that. I mean, in the end, she didn't just get a new office layout. She got efficiency, she got peace of mind, uh, that outcome, not the hours. I mean, the outcome of my contribution was truly what she valued, right? And the market actually works the same way. It doesn't, um, reward struggle, it rewards results. I've been emphasizing on this a lot. It rewards results, outcome, right? And once you internalize this, it's, changes how you see your work, how you price it, how you communicate your words. And I mean, you stop feeling guilty for charging properly, because you realize that you are not being paid for the effort alone. You are being paid for the impact and the outcome that, only you as a professional can, can deliver, right? And there's also something very, very common in this field, which is underpricing. I keep saying underpricing, undercharging, right? Especially here in Nigeria, right? It is almost like normalized already. I mean, they are simply, too many architects competing for a limited number of quality, emphasis on quality clients, right? So there is very little regulation around fees, and I mean, most clients do not really understand what architectural servicing, involves. Many things is just, oh, you are drawing and visuals, which most of us has represented to them like that, right? So not realizing the expertise, our capacity to actually solve problems for them and also guide them through the course of the project. And because of this environment, right, fear has now become, a major factor in how we as architects price ourselves. We have the fear of being rejected, or maybe, fear of, losing opportunities, or fear that a client will hire someone cheaper. That saying, there will always be someone somewhere that will do it cheaper, right? So because of that fear, you also tend to now drop your costs or whatever amount you are charging. And when fear drives your decision, you start, compromising your worth without even realizing it, right? So learning the fear. I'm not saying, okay, maybe this is because the architects are not competent, maybe they are lazy incompetent. I think it's because most of us never been taught competently, at least our value, why are we doing this in months for these students? And making like this, like I said, and even very, very early, maybe during my undergrad, after BSc and that, the people don't know how to explain to the client why their work was worth a certain price. So the easiest thing for us to do most times is, to quote a lower fee and just hope the client says yes. And it's not right. It is not right. I mean, fear is understandable. It is really understandable. It's human. But the danger is fear should not define your career. Because once fear becomes your default mode, you start, making decisions that feel safe in short terms, but hurt you long terms. You accept lower fees than you deserve. You allow your skills, to be undervalued, and you slowly and gradually train your clients, even yourself, to expect less. Right? But the moment you realize this pattern, there is no way, no how. At some point, you realize the pattern. The moment you realize that pattern, you can start shifting from fear to value-based decision making, right? And that's, mindset shift is what what separates architects who are constantly underpaid from those who command the fees they actually deserve, right? And another major reason underpricing happen, or at least I think, is because, you know architects. When I say architects, I'm putting it, the different cadres: student architects, interns, graduate architects, associates, even well practicing architects, right? You know, they are trying to be understood by everyone, right? And I do say this a lot, a lot. The truth is, the common man does not always recognize value immediately. In fact, most people don't. I mean, value is not always visible at first, right? People will notice it only after something goes wrong. Maybe after money has been wasted, or time has elapsed, time has been lost, right? So when you are offering offsites, you are offering maybe clarity, or maybe ways you can help clients reduce something, maybe cost or time, whatever it is. It can be difficult for them because they don't have that experience. It can be difficult for them to see why all these things you are saying matters. To them, it just looks like, oh, they are doing extra. It is extra. Why do I need this? You need to make them understand, right? And the people who truly recognize that your value, they will pay for it. For you, they will actually pay for it. Not only that, they will respect your process, they will trust your decision and recommend you to others who think like them, like what they say it, like mind attracts, right? And over time, you begin to attract an audience that appreciates what you do, not not because, oh, it is the cheapest option. They just You just start to attract that audience because you set a value scale, right? And the danger is when we keep adjusting our pricing, the way we negotiate, or maybe our standards, or even our business model to only what, in quote, the common man understand or sees right now. When you do that, you may win short-term jobs, just short-term job, short-term gain, but you slowly lose the very thing that makes your work, valuable in the process. And I think um, underpricing, undercharging is often, not necessarily about lack of skill. It's impatience. It is you. It is about trying to be accepted by everyone instead of positioning yourself for the people who actually value what you bring to the people to the table. Sometimes you'll be like, oh, okay, I got this project. It's not what I should have charged, but I need the money, so you do it regardless. No, just tell them how much you want to charge for the project. I'm saying this from the freelancer's point of view, um not a full well licensed architect or someone that works 9 to 5 route, right? Just let them know, inform them what are the things you'll be doing and why you are charging for certain amount. You have to make them understand. And when you do that, they know, yes, this guy or this person is going to give me value um for my money, right? And I've been there myself, honestly, very early. I say yes to almost every opportunity. I undercharge, I will undercharge, and I will still over deliver and convince myself that, oh, I was building experience in the process. But over time, I became exhausted. I became frustrated, and I realized that I was attracting clients who didn't respect my time or the in quotes little experience that I had. But what I learned is this: when you constantly underprice yourself, you are not being humble. Actually, you are just training the market to see you as cheap, right? And once that perception is formed, it is very, very difficult to undo. But the thing is, you can always realize it. But when you realize it, it is painful, but it's also freeing. And once you see it, you can always, correct it. And you undercharging in a way, it affects your bank account. It affects your mindset. You begin to resent your work. That's the one thing that gives you joy. You begin to resent it. You lose motivation. Your creativity will suffer in a way, and eventually you either burn out or leave the professional entirely. Like people going into accounting, into law, into whatever it is, right? So you cannot build a sustainable career on resentment, right? Because I believe fair compensation is not great. If you believe you deserve it, it is not great. You deserve it, and it is simply you asking for what you deserve, for the value you are bringing to the table, and that is just the simple truth, in my opinion. Right? Then two parts. Okay, I've been highlighting two parts since. That's from the um, freelancer's point of view and also the employee who works 9 to 5. Right? So whether you are doing any of this role or maybe you are juggling both simultaneously, the conversation about this value still applies. Right? It might look different in each context, but the principle is still the same, right? So for freelancers and remote workers, value is reflected in how you price, how you define your scope from the beginning of the project. So you won't get stories that touch later, right? And the way you position your services. And then for full-time employees, your value will show up in ways like, okay, maybe how indispensable you become within an organization, right? And for you, no one will actually escape this conversation. Everyone has to deal with this value talk at some point. So if you don't understand or communicate your value, you will still pay the price, either by charging too little as a freelancer or maybe growing very slowly in your career as an employee. There's no way around it. At some point, there will always be talk, about value. So if you are freelancing, you must understand that you are not selling time, or you are not only actually selling time. You are selling confidence, you are selling outcomes, right? Because two architects can do the same job, but the one who understand the client's real problem will actually earn more. So maybe when you are, presenting your service as mere drafting, like, oh, I'll provide the drawings, then you attract similar looking jobs. But when you frame your work as problem solving, that, oh, I'm helping clients make better decisions, I'm helping them, streamline the process, save cost, time, and all. Then you elevate your perceived value, how clients see you, even your colleagues in the industry, right? And if you are employed, I mean, your salary is also a form of pricing in a way, because promotions, raises, and many bigger opportunities are given to people who actually, create that noticeable impact within the firms. And the reward people would think, beyond the job description, you are already anticipating problems, you are helping the organization improve, processes, and maybe just in general contributing to the whole business side of practice. Well, I mean, being reliable is good. It's good to be reliable, right? But being valuable is better, because I know many people work hard, but a few, make themselves indispensable. So I'm going to speak from my personal experience here, my little experience, because I've lived on both sides of this conversation. I mean, working as a freelancer and also working as an employee who does 9 to 5. I mean, I started, freelancing quite early during my undergraduate days. At that point, freelancing wasn't just about, it wasn't even me building a career yet. It was mostly about survival. I needed pocket money, gas job, So if a project came and there was money involved, obviously, I would take it. So it didn't really matter what the scope was or how demanding it was. As long something was coming, I was willing to do it no matter the cost. So naturally, I charged very low. And at the time, it made sense to me, right? I was charging low. Okay, that's what I deserve. So let me charge accordingly. Or at least that was what I was thinking. I was young and I was learning, right? And I felt like, um, you know, I didn't have the right to ask for more. But over time, it became exhausting. For anyone really, it should become exhausting. I was working a lot, sometimes late nights, sometimes weekends. And, you still have to struggle, juggle all these things with architecture school. So, I mean, and the conversation simply didn't match the effort I was putting in. Because I remember getting to a point where I had to be very honest with myself. I told myself, come on, I can't keep doing this. Not because I hated the work, oh, yeah, I like architecture, like a lot, but because the imbalance was becoming obvious, right? I was giving too much and receiving too little. So I just made that um, you know, conscious decision. I told myself that okay, on this next project, I was going to try properly, right? Even if it felt uncomfortable, even if it felt risky, I was going to charge in a way that I haven't before. I legit told myself, if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. You know that popular saying, if I perish, I perish. If the client go, make it go. But somewhere, someone somewhere, right, would um eventually understand the value I was bringing, right? But before then, most of the projects I handled, they were priced, in the same range. I usually just charge, lump sum, maybe around 70,000, 75,000, 50,000, sometimes 100,000 at most, right? Depending on the skill. Then I remember getting, a project that was almost the same size and complexity as, what I have been doing before. And for the first time, instead of charging, from fear rather, or that habit I've been used to, I charge from value. Even with my little experience, at least I know that, oh, I can do this. And for you to come and meet me, I have what it takes to actually do it. And I just told my clients upfront, I'm charging 1 million naira for this project. It felt like a lot. I know in my head, I actually thought it was too much. Even as I said it, I felt like, boss, you dey push your local, you dey push this thing too much, right? But I mean, eventually during negotiation, we came to like a middle ground. I think we settled around 850, 800, thereabouts. I was genuinely shocked, right? It's not even entirely because, okay, maybe the clients agree, but because I realized something important. The value had always been there right from start. The only thing that changed was, my confidence in actually, communicating it, right? And from that day, I made up my mind that I would never sell myself short again. So that experience completely, reshaped how I approach freelancing. I stopped pricing from desperation and started looking at it from, I have the value. I'm a value creator, so I have to charge like that, right? So I'm going to just switch real quick to my employee perspective, right? Because obviously value creation doesn't just stop because you're on salary. You are freelancing, you are working 9 to 5. you have to create value. So I worked in the firm for a while. I don't want to go too much into details because it gets delicate. But at some point I started to notice something. There were certain tasks, certain responsibilities, that's dependent on me alone, right? So I wasn't just doing them, right? Yes, I was doing them, but I wasn't just doing them. I was the only person in the office who could do them effectively at that particular point in time. And honestly, I enjoy the work, genuinely. But enjoyment alone is not enough. It's not enough, right? So what struck me then was that if the firm, trusted me um, with these responsibilities, right? It meant that they saw value in what I was bringing. It meant I had to become, important to the workflow. So in simpler terms, I become somewhat, let's say, okay, maybe indispensable. Let's use that word in that area. So that realization changed how I thought. I stopped seeing myself as another staff member that can just do anything. I started seeing myself as someone contributing real value to the organization, and that led me to that question: if I am creating this level of value, shouldn't my compensation actually reflect it? I mean, and if you look at it, that is where many people, okay, let's bring it back to our context. Many architects get stuck, right? They become very comfortable. You can see architects working in firms like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years without ever negotiating a salary, not even once, right? So it's not because they don't deserve a raise, but because they're actually afraid to ask. They are afraid to ask. And I mean, the truth is, if you are consistently delivering value, if the firm relies on you, right, your absence will be felt. Honestly speaking, it will be felt. So you have every single right to think about growth, to think about, I mean, growth, obviously, you want to proceed in life. Um, think about pay, that's compensation, progression, and all sorts of things like that. So I don't actually want us to see salary negotiation as okay. In some cases, you might not really have a say in negotiation. Like someone like me who works in academics, right? It's a fixed their ranks. But if you are working in a 9 to 5 settings, it is not an entitlement, right? It is a response to the value you've created. So if you are bringing in value regularly, I mean, then you deserve to have that conversation with the organization, right? So it doesn't really matter if you are freelancing, if you are working your full-time role, that same principle, even though there are two different parts, this same principle, it remains the same, right? So value is what gives you that leverage. And once you understand that, you stop waiting to be noticed or you are afraid to ask and start positioning yourself intentionally, intentionally, intentionally. So earlier during the beginning part of this session, I mentioned that uh, pricing and negotiation is a mindset, right? I mean, there are many ways to price your work. If you want hourly rates, maybe lump sum, percentage of project cost, right? But the thing is, none of them work if your mindset is actually very wrong, right? You can follow every formula you have in a book that you read, right? But if you don't understand the value you bring, clients will never pay you what you deserve, right? And I mean, the highest paid clients in Nigeria or even anywhere in the world, they are not always the busiest. I'm saying this because I know they are the ones who are intentional, about how their work, creates value, right? They know what problem will solve, what outcome, matters to the client, even to yourself, right? And how to communicate that impact very clearly, right? And when you have that clarity, it allows you to set, your fees confidently. You won't even second guess or underprice. No, and this is especially true from the freelancer's perspective, right? Because as a freelancer, you don't have what's it called, a fixed salary or say a standard scale of fees, right? You are negotiating um directly with clients for each project. So your mindset, the mindset that you have determines whether you charge fairly or you sell yourself short, right? But in contrast, if you look at full-time employees in firms, they have set fee or maybe salary scale, then by there's promotion and whatever sort of, right? So pricing is a bit, less, flexible for people that work 9 to 5. But for freelancers, we must define it ourselves, right? And to define it, obviously, you need to create a clear scope. Like from the beginning of the project, the client should know what exactly you are delivering and what is to be included and what is not to be included. Again, to avoid stories that touch, right? Then there should also be, clear expectations, right? Both parties must agree on timelines. Okay, this project is supposed to take 6 months, or supposed to take 2 weeks, or supposed to take 2 days, right? Your deliverables and also your responsibilities. What are the things you'll be doing? Even the responsibility of the client, right? Maybe there are some things he needs to provide you. Maybe things like that, right? And there should be clear communication at every stage, and you should document it and explain so that there is no misunderstanding. Let me give you an example. Say, okay, maybe the client told you you're working on it for like 2 weeks, on the project for like 2 weeks, and the client is like, oh, okay, I need to make changes to this. Yes, you've acknowledged that, yes, you have to make changes to this. You need to send back to him that, okay, maybe a mail, or sorry, an email, or a message via WhatsApp, or a call, whatever it is, just to document that, yes, you make changes to so 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 and so. Please confirm that I go ahead, or something like that. So that should be documented, so there is no misunderstanding along, when along the course of the project, right? And when you approach pricing or project, whatever it is, with this mindset, right? You are actually not just quoting numbers from your head. You are justifying your fee based on the real impact you are going to get, the outcome. And in a way, that protects both you and the clients, right? You protect the clients from overpaying for ambiguous services, right? And you also protect yourself from undercharging or, being taken advantage of, right? And if you are looking at it from the employees POV, right? You are negotiating. It's not you trying to argue or you are trying to win a battle. It is the way you are framing yourself, or you are positioning yourself. Because I have a friend, right, scared to, ask for a raise, to negotiate. Even when he did eventually ask, it was coming from a place of fear, fear of losing the job, or fear of being replaced by someone else. Or fear of even sounding greedy for even asking, right? But when fear leads the conversation, you automatically weaken your position. Like they can enter you anyhow, left and right. And that is why your negotiation should, begin long before numbers are even mentioned. Like don't even say, anything about, oh, I want salary raise. Okay, I'm being paid 350K now. I want to be paid 500K. No, it starts with how you define your role, how you explain your contribution, and how you clearly communicate that value that you bring to the company, which is exactly why you're asking for it. You need to be able to communicate this well. And they know that, okay, yes, he deserves this raise, right? And there are a few principles that completely changes, how negotiation feels, and how what's the word? It is received, right? So never negotiate your salary, sorry, or should you say salary? Yes, your salary from a point of apology, like you're asking them for a favor. Never justify your fee by talking about how you work or how stressful the process was. Because again, effort is not what the market pays for. They are paying for the outcome, right? So when you're explaining all these things to the organization or to your manager, whatever it is, always tie your justification for your fee to the results, right? Or to the outcome, whatever it is you are doing for the firm, to your responsibility, the impact, right? So when when saying this again from the freelancer's point of view, when clients pushes back on price, it usually means one of three things, or maybe everything, right? Either they do not, yet understand the value of what you are offering, right? Or they do not trust the process or your ability to deliver it, right? Or they are just, maybe they genuinely cannot even afford the service, right? So your job is not to immediately drop your price. Do not undercharge. You have to identify which of this is happening, which of these three you have highlighted, and respond, accordingly. Or sometimes solution is better than explanation, and sometimes it's you building trust, and sometimes it can even be you walking away, right? So for full-time employees, negotiation looks, it looks different from the way it is if you're looking at it from the a freelancer's point of view, but it's just as important, right? So, I mean, it happens when you ask for your raise, you ask for a better role, or you want to set clear limits around your responsibility. You don't want to overdo, tapping into tasks and responsibilities that are not yours to begin with, right? So when you're already creating this low value, this conversation, they shouldn't feel like fight, right? They become something very simple. It's a professional discussion. You hired me in this company, right? So I should have the right to discuss my growth, and contributions I'm making, right? And I mean the evidence to show for it. So you shouldn't always negotiate, from a place of fear of you losing your job, right? Then positioning and language. So basically, um how you speak about your work matters, right? More than people realize, right? So if you describe your service as just drawings, like I said earlier, just drawings, or I'll draft up something for you, or say something like, "Oh, I'll do it. I'll put something together for you real quick." Okay, that real quick might be the end of it, right? Because instinctively, right, clients will just treat your work as low value. They will assume it's something simple, something easy, it's replaceable, right? And that's mindset. It's probably signal that your time, your expertise, your efforts, they are not worth shit, or they are not worth anything, right? Even if your designs are actually brilliant, right? But on the other hand, when you um speak about outcomes, right? What you help the clients achieve, like in terms of risks, cost, benefits, right? Everything changes. For example, instead of saying, "Oh, I'll help you create your office layout, or I will cook up something for you," you will cook up, okay? You might say something like, okay, maybe, look for fancy words, just to might be some sort of bubble. Obviously, it is something you are doing. If you say, "Oh, I'll create your office layout," there's something that will happen during the process. So that thing that is happening during the process, you actually have to communicate it. So your language actually matters. Say something like, "Oh, I will help you organize your space, so your team can work more efficiently. There will be unnecessary delays in the office, even your operating costs, things like that." The clients know that, "Oh, okay, yes, this person actually they understand what they are saying or what they are doing, right?" Because if you look at it, the first description where I said, "Oh, I'll create your office layout," right? That is just selling a product. You are just selling a product. The other sales is solution, sales a result, a benefit, right? So when you position, your service in terms of impact, right? Clients naturally, they perceive um, your value to be higher, right? So I want to believe what they are never neutral, because they set the stage for how clients think about you, and importantly, how much they are willing to pay, right? So your language frames your perception, and in turn, your perception shapes your value. So, in other words, before numbers or fees are even discussed, your words have already told the client what your service is worth. Even before you see anything about cost and all, the way you carry yourself, the way you communicate, you already know your worth in a way, right? So every time you talk about your work, maybe it's for a proposal, you're sending an email, using a conversation via phone, via WhatsApp, whichever the case may be. Just think strategically, right, about the words you use. And also think, are you selling a product? I'm selling a product and a result, right? So the right language, positions you as a problem solver, not just that, "Oh, I'm drafting, I'm rendering, I'm creating animations." Okay, that's all good. You are positioning yourself in a way that will allow you, command the value that you actually deserve, right? And there is okay, simple framework. There is something that's what I've been working for me, right? So before I get any job, or I set any job, wherever it is, I ask myself, these three solid questions. What problem am I solving? What outcomes, or what outcome rather matters most to the client? Then what is that outcome worth to them, right? So the first question, what am I, solving? It will, help you focus on the real issue the client is facing, right? Not just the tax they're asking for, right? Then the second, what outcome matters most to this client, right? I think that will just force you to understand what success actually looks from their own point of view. It is very important to understand. In their own head, they might not be able to communicate it. Just like you can't effectively communicate your value when necessary. There is something in their own head they can't also communicate fully. You actually need to try as much as possible, to see it from their own point of view, ask some questions that will allow them review some things to you. So at least you have the whole idea all encompassing, right? Then the third, what is the outcome, what? So like I've been saying, it can be anything. Are you trying to streamline the process for them? Are you trying to reduce costs, complete the project on time? Whatever it is, you have to know what it was, right? So if you can, answer these questions clearly, I want to believe you will be able to, connect your work to the value you are creating, right? So then you can, price, position your service with confidence without ever second guessing why you are charging that particular amount. And my people, that's how architects stay relevant. So it's not you working hard or working long hours, right? But you need to deliver, clear, meaningful outcomes. And that's the value we've been talking about all along. So now I hope we can, start seeing ourselves, through a new lens, right? As architects who can create value, because we are value creators. So I want to, leave us with this thought, right? Value is not, something you wait for. It is something you intentionally create and communicate, right? So every day you wake up, you're actually making a choice whether to show up as someone who produces just drawings and renders or whatever, or somebody who actually creates value, right? And once you make that shift, your career trajectory changes completely. So thank you very much for your time.
All right, so let's give a round of applause, please. It was really a full and packed one. Thank you so much, Adekunle. Okay, so he said we should not undercharge. Oh, he said we should not undercharge. And we all know how it's gonna be. When you start undercharging, they will not label you as the one that does it by this particular price. Okay, so that we can have ample time to ask questions. I know we all have a lot of questions, so please, those that have questions, please just raise up your hand, and would actually allow you to speak. If you have a question, just raise your hand. Okay, Bolu has a question. All right, so please try to frame your questions in about 30 seconds so that there can be time to respond. So, Bolu, please.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Uh, Really, thank you so much for the session. It was very insightful. Uh, so actually, technically, I don't have a question. I have like a thought that I want to share. Is that fine? Can I do
Yeah,
that?
yeah, that's fine.
Fantastic. So I think that's something, an extra takeaway or the thought that I have is when you start to think of yourself as a value creator and not just someone who creates drawings, you must also realize that it increases your responsibility in some regard. And I think that it increases your responsibility in three major ways. First of all, it increases your responsibility to understand the client and what the client actually needs. Because when you start to think about value, you must use so now it becomes bigger than money. It becomes how much it becomes bigger than how much you can make from the clients. It
Yeah.
now becomes more about the value that you create and what you can provide for the client.
Yes.
So let me just give a personal example. I designed portfolios for people. A couple of months ago, someone reached out to me, said he wanted a portfolio. It was a very quick conversation. He wanted it done in a couple of weeks. He wanted to apply to his school. He wanted to travel. He just wanted something done very quickly. And as the conversation progressed, I started to realize that what he was asking for was outside the scope of what I typically produce. So I decided to slow down the conversation a little bit. And what happened when I did that was that he started to open up. He was very fearful about the admission process of universities abroad. So he wanted to cram a lot of things into the portfolio. He wanted to show a lot of things he wanted to. So when I started to understand that that was what he was looking for, I started to inspire a little bit of confidence, showed him portfolios that I had done for people that they had used to gain admissions to universities abroad. That means that I could now suggest my own process as opposed to the idea that he had about just cramming things into the portfolio. Now, what I realized that happened was if I had just taken that as normal, let's do this thing in 2 weeks, let's get out of this place, I would have charged him the normal price. But after I realized what was going on and I understood him better, his project took at least 4 times longer than a typical portfolio does. And he paid me 3 times more than a typical portfolio that I would have made from a typical portfolio, just because I understood what it needed a little bit more. So when you understand the value that you're creating, it puts a responsibility to understand your clients more. And second, it also puts a responsibility on you to be self-aware. Sometimes you just need to know whether you can do this thing or not. And you cannot do that if all you are thinking about is money, because you just want to do the job and do the job and collect their money. But it's also important for you to know that what this person needs, can I actually provide it? Can I actually? Sometimes you have to let them go. Sometimes it will result in you realizing that you can do it, but they're not willing to pay for it, and you have to walk away in that regard. So those are just some of the thoughts that I had. I have a question, but I think I prefer to ask Adekunle like on the personal level. So I think I'll just do it. Those are
That's fine. I'll be expecting that.
be valuable to appreciate.
Thank you so much for the input.
All right, thank you so much, Bulu. So thank you so much for that extra insights. So definitely, you will need to understand your client, understanding your client. All right, so we have some other people raising their hands. So let's any gifts. Please just unmute yourself and ask the question.
Good evening, everyone. That was a wonderful lecture by Adekunle. I really appreciate that.
Sorry, please, correction, Mr. Adekunle.
Okay, Mr. Adekunle.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. How can architects advocate for sustainable choices when clients persist there? Talking about value, yeah. Talking about value, there are some architects that they are based on sustainable architecture and how the architecture they want to, the design they want to like propose will help their environment and all. So how can architect advocate for sustainable choices when the client persists there?
Okay, I think uh our speaker has a bit of internet issues. Has a bit of internet issues, but he's going to join soon. He's going to join soon. All right. So let's even just make a little bit of twist. Is there anyone that has something to say based on what Mr. N
Can you hear
said?
me?
Okay, he's back. All right.
Glory.
I can hear you. I can hear you. All right. I can hear you. Oh,
Hi,
okay.
Glory, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Let me try and get back on my phone.
We can hear you, Adekunle. We can hear you.
Okay. Sorry. Well, who was it? Again, sorry, please again. Sorry.
Yeah, I said how can architects advocate for sustainable choices when the client persists there?
Resist. What do you mean? Sorry, resist them. Like
Like
I said,
like you trying to make your design sustainable for your client and they be like they don't want this, they don't want that.
oh, okay.
Really familiar with it.
Okay, I understand that. Okay. So I mean, just you have to communicate first. You have to let them see it from your own point of view. Yeah. Because so it doesn't come off like, oh, maybe you are trying to impose your own want, even though it's not your want, because you are trying to create a better environment in a way. but you have to make them see it from your own lens as an architect and the impact of what you will do on the environment, and also to him because he's also going to benefit from it in the long run. Yeah. And if he doesn't want to see from your lens, I mean, that one is a bit tricky. And I think now it's up to you, your own personal conviction. Are you okay with, going along with the project? Like, okay, if it doesn't meet certain things, so far it's not endangering the environment in a way, but it still doesn't meet full sustainability, criteria or values. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. Do you want to go along with it or not? But you still just have to, because I mean, at the end of the day, it is your job to advise your clients. And this also, it also has its own take. So either take it or reject. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, I do. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that one. So just reiterate what he said. So he said that when you have a situation where something that you are proposing in, for example, in the light of sustainability, communicate the outcomes, not the process actually. Communicate the outcomes, what the client would get from that. Right. So thank you so much. Okay, so Mr. Afalabi Victor, please just unmute yourself and let's hear from you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Adekunle, for
Thank you.
all that you said. So I really appreciate it. So I have this issue every time I want to charge clients, especially with a renovation project, and the scope of the work is known, but sometimes, like, as the financial aspect is somehow vague, and so at that point when you want to charge, you are in between. Oh, am I charging the right? Especially if you've done this upfront. So
Yeah.
what do you do in that case?
What do you mean by you done this upfront? Sorry.
Exactly.
No, like I didn't get that. You said you've done
I
something
said,
upfront.
like, let's say for instance,
Yeah.
client A comes to meet me and
Okay.
tells me, okay, I have a renovation project
Yeah.
and this is what I want to do. I know about the scope of the work.
Mm.
Now, when it now gets to me telling the client, okay, this is how much I'll be needing for this project.
Okay.
It's always vague for me. I'm not always clear because first of all,
Sorry, wait.
I would want to.
Wait, sorry to cut you short. How
Okay,
much do you need for the project, or how much do you want to charge for the project? Which one?
how much do I want to charge for the project?
Okay. All right.
So sometimes I do this a lot. I will try and know exactly, at least based on experience, how much we are going to use to, like, erect this project. For
Okay.
instance, it's a 2 bedroom, like, let's say this is just an example,
Yeah.
20 million. So in my mind, even though I'm not going to use the exact scale of fees that we usually use as architects, I would just be able, because first of all, I'm not a certified architect yet. I would just be a bit, I would try and reduce the price a bit, and then, I mean, the scale, just in a way that it
I
will like,
understand.
man, this is what my value is. But in this case now, for a renovation project where you do not know exactly what is to be done, but at least your mind is.
I understand you. I
You
understand
understand
you
what
well.
I'm trying to say?
Yes, I understand. So there is something I usually do. I'm speaking from my own experience here, my own little experience. Yes. So let's say, there are sometimes clients, they really don't know what they want fully, right? They really don't know what they want fully. You have to help them see it. Or sometimes it comes in stages. Maybe you've started the project and they be like, oh, it's starting to their minds, and oh, that's fine, no problem. But also, to bring it back to this, what I usually do is, okay, I charge, I don't know why. As a freelancer, I love charging lump sum. It is just so sweet. I don't need to even break down anything. But sometimes I tend to do breakdown. But let's say I'm doing a lump sum charge, right? And I really don't understand the full scope yet because he hasn't, fully explained it. But it's key to, oh, let's start this thing. What I usually do is, when I charge my lump sum, I say, okay, maybe I'm charging this. Okay, let's say maybe for the drawings, for everything, whatever it is that it needs. right? The process,
Mm-hmm.
let's say maybe 800,000 naira. I'm just assuming like 800,000 naira. But
Okay.
as you are sending in, all these things, you have to like actually act as a professional, even though you are not a full registered architect or something. You actually
Mm-hmm.
have to, let's say maybe you are sending an invoice or a quote. You need to send a
Mm-hmm.
document, like a proper document that has your name, billing to who and whatever it is. You put your
Mm-hmm.
item on it and say, okay, maybe full construction document or whatever it is, maybe 800,000 naira. Then there will always be something like is it terms and conditions or maybe clause. It will state there that because the scope is not well defined, that this price that you are charging is subject to change. Definitely
Mm.
it can be lower. Definitely can be lower. It is subject to
Yeah.
change. So if the scope expands or becomes larger than what is intended, then it means you have to revisit the amount to charge initially. So for
Mm.
that to actually be for that to actually be standing or binding, well, in a way, you will send the
Mm-hmm.
quote to the guy to your clients. He actually needs to maybe sign or actually give like a written or maybe text approval that okay, yes, he agrees with this before you proceed. Do you understand? So that's
Okay.
what actually means. There should
Okay.
always be a clause. There should always be a
Okay.
clause. Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, that's also another amazing one. So just some things I even just picked up from there was that uh, I know that many of us would typically or you would naturally want to reduce the price of what you want to charge for a project because you are not yet licensed, right? Now, the licensure does not add to the value that your client is getting from your work. Your licensure does not. Is the value that you are giving. So someone can be licensed and not able to get or provide the value that your clients will need or a client would need, while someone that is not licensed will be able to provide it. So don't look at yourself as I'm not licensed, so I charge less. Again, that's what Mr. Adekunle has said as underpricing, right? You are doing work, is your time, your sleep, your skills, your late nights, please. Another thing that I also mentioned, which I believe that everyone should know, is that no matter how small the project that you're doing, normalize having both a contract and an invoice. Now, I know that some people again, because they look at themselves as not licensed, they think you are not meant to have a contract. You should have a contract. I've worked with someone or okay, I've worked with someone that is a Nigerian but is not in Nigeria, right? So when he wants to do a project in Nigeria, again, is not licensed though. When he wants to do a project in Nigeria, he first sends you the contract, especially based on okay when he understands the scope of work. If you look at the if he look if the client is able to look at the contract well and approves of it, right? You can just honestly go with your project. Now, you can also take cues from your standard contracts like provided by NIA, right? So provided by account. So like all those kind of things are stuff that you can also leverage by yourself, right? So I just saw a question from Olawale. So let me just read the question. So he said, "Good afternoon, everyone. My question to you, sir, what what are the key lessons you have learned over time from the architectural firms you have interned with both in the creative part of architecture and business part of architecture?" So, Mr. Adekunle, please just tell us if it's something that you want him to ask again, or you
Okay.
can just answer.
Um, I mean, I've, I have only in sync with an interior design firm, right? And what's the name again? McD. I mean, I don't really remember much of that experience there, but I know it was a very fun time, right? I learned a lot, yeah. But I think you should value collaboration, and I think that is Where, because if anyone that knows me, they know that I'm actually big on collaboration. And I think that is one key thing, right? I got from there. Because I mean, there are some firms you go, they will just do their own thing, waste man hours, and at the end of the day, they have nothing to show for it at the end of the week, right? Collaboration, we have, two, three people working on one single project, right? All just to just to get like an outcome. Yeah. So you yourself, you have to actually train yourself to be a team player, right? I know that even right before, going for my internship at midday, that's undergraduate internship, right? I used to be a solo player. Like not like I don't enjoy getting input from people, right? I do, but I just like to move solo. I don't know why when it comes to design. But until I started interning there, I got to know that it is much more than that. Even collaboration will make you work faster, get better outskills, and all sorts of things like that. So yeah, you should be, a a team player, a team player, right? Then after my what's it called? My bachelor's, right? I worked with Oshino Studio for about 2.5 years. I don't know if that is right. Let's say 2.5 years. Yes. So let's say 2.5 years. I keep saying 2.5 years. 2.5 years, right? I mean, when we are in school, right, we just design like, oh, this looks good. We are thinking about aesthetics and all sorts of things like that. When I got for Shino Studio, I remember one time, okay, I didn't jump on this project. I started working on it. I was just designing it from the view of, oh, I want this thing to be beautiful. I wasn't thinking about the practicality. Like, will this thing actually work on site? Will you give them issues on site? So, I mean, so as much as we are designing and we're looking at, oh, this thing has to be fine, we also need to be thinking about the technical aspects when you actually get to the site, right? So things as, and I remember Tosin, sorry, architect Tosin Shino, I pardon my this thing because at work we go on a first name basis, Tosin, Adekunle, and the like. So, whenever I work on a project and she will just ask me, Adekunle, so how will this thing work? I start, thinking, oh my, how would this actually work? So it takes me back to the drawing board and see if the initial design can actually work or whatever little detail, maybe as little as, okay, maybe you have a strip light along your curtain, then how would the cove look like, how would the light shine? You have to show all those little details. So in essence, what I'm saying is that you have to be detail oriented. You have to be thinking not just from the initial design point of view. How will it actually be executed on site? Will it work or not? So yeah, those are the key things I can point out. So yeah.
All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, let's just give a round of applause for him, please. He has done so much well. All right. One more question from Princess. So, Miss Princess Osuki, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay.
Good evening.
Good
Um,
morning.
yes, sorry, that was a mistake. I'll just say thank you so much for um the value that you have brought to us like this evening. Thank you for speaking on just the value of um architecture and like yes. So sorry, thank you.
Thank you. It's fine.
All right then. So there's just one more question I would really love you to ask a bit answer. And I know many people are really just shy to ask the question. So I think when I ask this question, um, Mr. David Cole will just ask the last question, then we can wrap it up for today. All right. So the question I want to ask is that for many people here who are undergraduate students, right? They are learning, but they also are able to take on some very small projects, right? So, what would you advise them in going into the industry, even as a freelancer, to both get experience and also both get paid for the value that they are given? So, yes, just kind of how they can be able to navigate through as undergraduate students.
undergraduates like going for internship?
Let's say those that have not just started taking um personal projects, or those that would want to start taking personal projects, they are
Mm.
still in school, or probably they just left school,
Oh, okay.
right? So yes, that's the question.
So essentially, if I'm getting this right, so let's say maybe how they can actually get projects while in school and how they can navigate around it.
Yes, so how can they get those projects, and what should they do when they have those projects, and
When they have this
what are the
project.
things that they should know?
Okay, okay. So again, I like to share personal experiences, right? So I'm saying this because I started, freelancing during my undergraduate days, and I started 300 level. I did 5 years. After it was 5 years in our school, right? I did 5 years, but I started freelancing in 300 level. That was before IT. IT is 400 level, I think. Yes, I started internship 300 level. Sorry, freelancing 300 level. But I mean, like I said earlier, then I I can't be relying, on pocket money and all things like that. I was like, oh, okay. I also want to fend for myself. There's some things I need to get. I don't have to necessarily call my parents, my or family members and things like that. I should be able to provide for myself, and that was actually leading me to freelancing. Because as at then, I know even if I get a job or an internship role while in school, like actively in school, it's going to be tedious. So I started looking for different options, like how can I actually get jobs, right? But funny thing is that if you ask people that, oh, okay, how do I start freelancing or how do I, get jobs and whatever it is, they tell you, oh, go to Upwork, go to what's the other one? There's one. What was it called? It has
Fiverr.
yes, Fiverr. Thank you. For you, I actually don't think it's really works for it works for the entire Nigeria climate, right? But for our own context, our own industry, it doesn't favor us because we're in Nigeria, right? I mean, it favors people who have accounts in the US, in the UK, so far it's not Nigeria, right? Clients will tend to trust them the more. So you might be on Upwork or Fiverr for a very long time. I'm telling you, you waste your credit or whatever it is, you might not see one single project, right? So what's our advice you do is see this we are in an era that see social media is at the tip of a hand like this. Just snap like this. You are on Instagram, you're on LinkedIn, you're on Twitter, whatever it is. So it starts with you actually, creating your work, even personal project that you do. But our advice, like some students who actually came to meet me during this, I think last month or so, you don't, I don't know how to put this, but I'll come back to that later. Don't let me divert. I'll come back to that later. Use social media to your advantage. I mean, there's LinkedIn. You can always post whatever it is you are doing there. And mind you, my first ever project was actually through LinkedIn. Because then I was posting, some of my works like consistently from physical models to my car drawings and whatever. And I remember one lady from that was my very first international project from Greater Accra message, and she was like, "Ade, what do you think about working with me whilst in Ghana or whilst in Nigeria, whatever it is?" I was like, what is this? Because again, I didn't even understand that, oh, you could actually like, cross border experience and all like that. And this is not like fully freelance, it's not really freelance, it's a remote work at 300 level. And what led to that? Because I've been posting my work consistently, again, consistency, right? So, I mean, that was my very first project, and I was actually paid in dollars, not even naira. I think that was what made my eye pop a lot. Like, oh my, I have to like be in this freelancing or remote work because sometimes it pays, but sometimes it doesn't also, right? So again, you have social media, just continue posting your work, right? Yeah, I mean, there's Instagram, there's Twitter. I know some people that are currently in the 200 level, 300 level right now that they are doing very, very nice work and they post them on Twitter. They get engagements. You don't know what they are getting. Like secretly, you don't know. Obviously, there are some clients, you'll be like, oh, you know what? I think this guy, is capable just to give me a design or whatever it is. I don't necessarily, they can tell you, I don't necessarily have to go meet licensed architect. I mean, I just want to design my bedroom, redesign my bedroom, or design my kitchen. Students, architects should be able to do that, right? So these are the little things people see. You think people are not actually actively following what you are doing, but they are secretly. So again, utilize social media tools from Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Even Snap. I have somebody who does who posts on Snap. You'll be surprised. I just laugh, but I can't use Snap, but yes, I can't use Snap for my professional business, but at least people tend to use it. So in essence, what I'm saying is you can utilize social media to get your jobs, right? Then for you to actually now navigate it, say, oh, you've actually gotten the job or whatever it is. Again, because you are a student, does not mean you should sell yourself short. And I've been there, but I don't want you to be there. That's why I'm saying this, right? Just ask for what you think you demand. You must not be too low. Just know that you must not demand something too low. You should know what you demand. Okay, maybe like a small kitchen project. There's nothing stopping you from charging 500K as a student. I mean, depending on the scope and complexity of the project now. If okay, let's say maybe you want a very clean minimalistic kitchen, that has free circulation all around the whatever it is, the things you add during the process, that's you charge for it. Then also it is also nice to separate all your what's it called? As much as you are charging lump sum or whatever it is, it's always good to separate all your what's the word? Your shall I say your the items that you're supposed to deliver, right? So maybe say something like, oh, maybe the design itself, charge a separate fee for it, a lump sum, right? Right? Maybe renders or visuals or whatever it is, charge separately for it per view. You can do per view or per space. Per view, I mean, as a student now, I know somebody who charge 250, 300,000 naira per view, not even per space, per view. It's because he has honed his skills, he has improved on his, whatever is visualization, animation, whatever it is, and he can charge that, right? So things like that, right? Things like that, you actually have to highlight them in your what's the word? Is it quote? Yes, in your quote when sending off to the clients. That one is very important. State all your terms and conditions. Very important because clients they are looking for who to actually to what's the word? What's the word? They are looking for. There's a word I'm looking for. Let's just use the word scam. Basically, they feel like we can do it cheap. So yes, you understand. And there's something I'm already losing my train of thought here. Um, something is coming to my mind, but it keeps going off. But yeah, let's just leave it at that for now. When I remember, hopefully before the session is over, I'll speak on it. So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Cause of our time. David Cole, do you I still asking a question so that I can
Yeah,
allow
you took the question out of my mouth. It was exactly the same question I was going to ask.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. All right, all
yeah.
right, all right, lovely. All right, so Mr. Andrew, so you are the last person for today. Please ask your question.
I do want to ask a question, but I think Adekunle has buttressed what I was about to and so I think it's all good for me. Mhm. All right, so that's fine. I'm seeing a question right now in the chat box. Aloshi Studio. So, so I'm seeing two questions actually. Which platform do you use to freelance? Okay, and how do you understand the brief of the project? Oh, I mean, like I said, I don't use any platform to freelance. I, sorry, what's the word? I don't use any platform like Fiverr and Upwork and the likes. I don't use them. But again, social media, right? That is what I tend to use. So you said something like, how do you understand the brief of the project? I mean, that's the first thing, the very first thing. If you can't understand the brief, then we are going to get a very bad result. For you to understand the brief, I mean, you get your client's requirement. What does he want? What does he need? What are his pinpoints? All these things. Then you interpret it to now what you understand, right? I mean, and that is now your own client's brief. Then you send back again to the client to actually confirm that this is what he actually wants. Then when he approves it, then you go ahead. That's basically it. So simple. So simple. Then there's also another question here before we go. I think this will be the last. It said, this is my first time listening and you've made me desire this kind of conversation every day. What advice do you have for model architect like myself who want to focus alone solely on this niche when it comes to scaling? Hmm. Okay. I mean, for you to say you want to focus on a niche and scaling, okay, let's just say my advice is, let's say, through food, right? I don't know if you are saying this from the point of view of, oh, like a full scale architect, or maybe still as a student, whatever it is, but let's just say as a full, maybe licensed architect or whatever it is, right? You need to still understand that niche. Like, you have to become that go-to expert in that area. So the common problems you face in that niche, your client expectation, even you know trends better than anyone else. Because right now your attention is not divided across all the different areas of architecture. You are only focused on one point, right? So I want to believe the more specialized you are, the higher the perceived value of your services, right? Take for example now the MIGD where I intend at, they don't do anything outside interior architecture. And it's not only just interior architecture, commercial interior architecture, or maybe, sorry, not commercial, the commercial is not the word, office interior architecture. So anything outside that, they don't. Maybe they might be doing it maybe internally within the office and not publicize it because they're trying to sell a brand, right? But at least they've carved a niche for themselves and now they are the best at it. Or yes, no, we also have space finish, very good interior design frame, but they've carved a niche for themselves. So when people are thinking, oh, this our office is so outdated, we need to, upgrade it or something. Yeah, some people that will call it, some firms that will come up to their mind, like real quick, space finish, maybe name them offices like that because they've carved a niche for themselves, right? And if you are doing this because you're also in a way testing waters, right? It's a niche, right? You don't just do your good work silently. And I think that's what some architectural firms are actually suffering from. They don't publicize their work. I mean, only few firms actually have like a legit clean website that it is very interactive. You can scroll through and see project and be like, oh yeah, 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 I would like this to design my house or design my office and whatever it is, right? So share what you do, right? And how, or okay, yeah, when you share what you do, obviously the client has come to you with a problem. And you also have to share how you solve that problem and the outcome you've created, right? And there's something they used to do. They used to share testimonial after each project and all, and that is a long lost tradition. You see it in some other firms, but in architecture, people don't do it anymore. I don't know. Not that they don't even do them. They don't even do it. Only few people, only few firms do it, right? So you do maybe simply before and after exams to show results, all those things, right? Then also you have to systematize, or it's, let's say, position yourself, right? So once you know your niche that you're going into, right, build processes that will make your work, repeatable. Repeatable, yes, scalable, then also reliable, right? So this could mean maybe templates, standard project flows, or even some certain partnerships that you have in place. Maybe okay, for your interior work now, there's a particular guy that does your woodwork, your cabinetry, your joinery. They already know how you work. So all these things will minimize you delay, cost and all sort of things like that. There's no trial and error here. You already know who does this. You've tested him, you've tried him, you know he's capable of doing it. So you go to that person again that, oh, okay, you are working on this. I need your services. We need your services. This is what we are doing. You understand? So it's like you are already creating a template, like a system, like a form of partnership with different maybe vendors or you know consultants, right? And that allows you to take on more work without actually losing quality. So I mean, just position yourself as an architect who, consistently deliver whatever specific outcome you're looking for in your niche. So, I mean, if you say scaling, I think it is less about you doing more and more and more, right? Even though you are making it repeatable, right? It will be doing it will be doing less because you've created a process that will help you along the road. I don't know if I'm making any sense. But anyway, it's just about being intentional, consistent, and make yourself visible in the value you create in that niche. So yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So unfortunately, we can't be able to take more questions. So we'll just have to cap it from here. So thank you everyone for joining today. It's very important that uh, you all actually came to learn, right? So this definitely was brought to you by LearnArchi. We are a community of architects and student architects where we primarily just learn. We have different activities per week, and yes, even our speaker today is one of us. Okay, so yeah, we have this webinar every month, and we have been doing that since September. I will be continuing to next year. We have a lot of people already in the line for January next year, February, March, April. So yes, you would not want to miss it. So for our community members here, this would be our last ever gathering this year. So tomorrow we'll not be having design reviews, and Sunday we'll not be having anything, right? So yes, I think it has really been an amazing year so far. So for those that want to join Learn Aki, please make sure that you register on the link that was provided for this webinar. So we're going to send you the access to the group chats as well as how to register. And definitely, it will be an amazing time to have you. All right. So we would have to cut today's meeting from here. And thank you so much, everyone, for the time and effort.